Okay, we got Dr. Dave Abbott here, and we're in Farmington Hills, and he's going to tell us a little bit about something this young man named Blease came up with. And could you give me just a minute or two worth of what that's all
I'll
about?
do my best here. It's Robert Blease. He developed a kind of group therapy called scenario role play. He's actually probably around mid-80s right now. Developed it back in the 50s, and yeah, he did it in a hospital setting with what were called incurable schizophrenics. He had 12 of them, and in 2 months, 6 of them were back in the community living productive lives. So it's a pretty powerful therapy. It's also good for teaching and training and supervision, as I myself have found. It requires a group because you're interacting with other people and you play your own personality, but the setting is artificial. And the setup is part of the unique features of this particular kind of therapy, which is, I believe, I mentioned, is called scenario role play. The scenario is set up by giving each of the participants their artificial history, and then they go from the present moment, which has some sort of conflict, and try to solve the conflict. It teaches different maturity skills, as I call them, communication, dealing with anger, dealing with authority, and several others. You want to ask me some questions, or?
Yeah. Now, I usually do individual supervision, although I do a little bit of group supervision, but there's usually only 2 supervisees and myself. Do we require like 5 or more, or how can this work?
Well, 2 is a pretty small number, and the usual supervision time would not be enough time to do very much. When I'm using it for supervision, I try to have my supervisees come for the whole day. 8 hours total, that we call 6 hours of it, the actual role play. And it's a flexible enough technique that you can mix supervisees and therapists and clients and students all in the same group, as long as you have them working at their level of competence in the role that they're in the artificial situation. And I do group supervision too, but I do both kinds, both the role play and sort of more usual supervision. The supervision, when I'm using the role play, allows me to see how people handle lifelike situations. And I can make some assumptions that the way they handle other people in an artificial situation has some relationship to how they handle clients. So if they have trouble dealing with anger, they're going to have trouble when the client is angry, and so forth. And so we can work on it when the consequences are also artificial, and that's quite a help.
It lowers some of the walls so people can get into the genuine feelings without a genuine situation.
Yeah, and the situation tends to feel genuine, but the consequences are not real. In other words, if a couple gets divorced, it's not even the real couple, and if somebody gets fired, it's not the real job. So that makes it a safe kind of activity.
Okay. Yeah, I think I was in one of your role plays once or twice, actually.
Yeah, it could be.
And then I think we also hired you at Christian Counseling
That's
Services
right, yeah.
to teach us that one time.
Right.
So.
And I've now written a book on it, several more in the computer, in various stages of completion.
So what would be like if I wanted to prime myself to bring it into my supervision with my supervisees? What would be the primary task I'd need to take care of first?
Well, you've had some experience. I think the book would be quite helpful. But to bring it into supervision, at this point particularly, you're going to have to use your own creativity and your own knowledge of what helps people to move forward in their growth toward being all they can be. And what my position on this is that none of us are as mature as we could be. So that includes us as clinicians, beginning counselors, and anybody out there in the real world. Now, not everybody cares, so they're not going to always get help to improve. But this is one very helpful tool, because if you're in a situation dealing with other people, that's what life is about. I sometimes point out that even if I'm hearing voices, if I don't tell anybody, nobody's going to think I'm crazy. So it takes some kind of relationship for us to have both mature and immature behavior.
Yeah. It shows up in relationship.
Yeah, it really does. And so that's why I believe so much in groups and group activity. And I think that while we do change our personality based on the situation and based on the other person, it's not really a change, it's which part of our personality we emphasize. So if I'm the underdog, I behave one way. If I'm in charge, I behave another way. If I'm with equals, I behave another way, and probably differently with men and with women, and so on and so on and so on. And we have that in groups. So we can make some projections about the people as to what they're doing in role play with what they're doing in the rest of their life.
So this isn't something that I would use in therapy with clients. This is more something I would use in groups that are long-term, or at least long-lasting during the whatever term it is.
Yeah, that helps. If you use it one-to-one therapy, you're going to have to do some modifications. Because it requires the scenario role play definitely requires more than one person. Now, what you learn from that, especially as a facilitator, you can use individually, because as the facilitator, you're actually going to have to do some acting. In other words, you have to kind of assume yourself into the role that the person was playing and show them a different option of how to handle whatever it was they were handling. And so for that, you're not trying to be yourself so much, you're trying to show them a different way they can be themselves. But when they're doing it, they're only trying to be the best person they can be, and they don't know maybe that they've got some other talent that they could use.
Okay. How's your breathing right now?
Well, I'm a little short of breath. You might want to cut it off for a minute.
Yeah, let's take a break here, and because we got about 7-8 minutes in, so
okay.
let's take a break and talk to you some more.